right, thank you very much. I know I stand between you and probably home or more conversation, so I'll try to make this quick. Richard set my talk up really well when he talked about the fact that this is Tech Week, not Business Week. So I unfortunately plan to talk about the business side of R&D management. But also he showed robots, which no one can beat. So, so I hope I can quickly go through my slides, share with you my insights about the management side of R&D. And more importantly, from what Richard and the other speakers showed to us tonight, is that technology is well advanced. It's probably beyond our imagination of what is possible. So we're not limited by our imagination anymore. And I can speak on behalf of the businesses I have worked with and worked for, that the businesses get the point, that they see the value in all of this. Yet we remain not fully engaging with these types of technologies as much as you like, right? We're still experimenting, we're still a bit shy to get there. And I think it has a lot to do with what I want to share with you guys tonight. It's about organizations building the capacity to introduce these types of technologies while still running the ship, while still running their businesses. And that's a big challenge. And that's an invitation from me and IMS that I work with, is, and all of our clients, that, that we need help in developing better technologies to get this side of the whole equation done well as well. I want to start with a show of hands. How many of you guys believe in this statement? Innovate or perish? Yep. No? Some non-believers, they don't believe that, if either innovate or perish. Most of the people here make a case, at least the technology people, that we should be innovating, and otherwise that we're going to be left behind. Most of the CEOs that have been surveyed around the world, corporates, small businesses, startups, talk about the fact that disruption is a lot more real than what they imagined before. That all of these amazing technologies create emotions of fear and anxiety in some of us when we see them, all those robots rising up and doing the human stuff. These are real. They're actually not in science fiction anymore. They're in here. Companies like Rocos is making it happen, and so it's really at our doorsteps. So innovate or perish is a reality. Many people believe in it. Oops. But I also think there's a lot of innovate but still perish. Yep. Lots of companies attempt to innovate, but still don't end up innovating in the right areas. No one thinks that Kodak, for example, was not innovative. No one thinks that the people who made typewriters were not innovative. They were innovating in their own domains, but they were probably not innovating in the right areas or in the right ways. And Blockbuster was innovating. They probably had a lot of R&D and innovation in the pipeline, but it's still, they were perished. So there's also innovate then perish. So innovation can cause a demise of organizations if you put all of your resources in solving problems that people don't have, in areas of technology that people don't really want a solution for. You could actually end up developing technologies and making big plans and and taking on investments, and yet still perish. Many startups don't end up surviving, even though they're working on a lot of cool technologies. They're innovating, they're attracting a lot of investment, but yet still they don't survive. Segway was a company that many of you guys are probably familiar with, that that thought that they're going to change the world with the technology they had, and eventually, how many did they plan to sell, Adrian?
Yeah, they said at one time bigger than the internet.
Yeah, they were going to be bigger than the internet, but they weren't. Segway. Oh, see, you still haven't heard of them. They were going to be bigger than the internet. And the guy who bought the company apparently died going off a cliff on a Segway. So the proposition I like to make is that companies need to innovate the right way or they will perish. Right? So there's innovation just for the sake of innovation. Technology just for the sake of innovation. Technology is not necessarily going to add the value that you need in order to survive and prosper as a business. At IMS, this is what we try to do. This is a bit of a plug, but we help companies of all sizes and forms to craft and implement their right way, because it's not one right way of innovation management. Every company needs to develop their own way. They are unique in the way they operate, they manage, they have a history that makes a big impact on how decisions are made, what areas of knowledge they're exposed to, and also what their areas of knowledge they're comfortable taking in. As a result, it's really, really important that you find the right way for you. And that makes it even more complex. So the question I have is, and this is what we have been thinking about and have been working on in some capacity, is how much we use data and technology to innovate the right way. Innovation at its core is quite simple. You form an idea, you put a team together, you get some of these amazing technologists to help you, and you get some results. Yeah? Yeah? Yes, no? Yes. But it's a lot, in doing so, it's a lot more complex than that, right? First of all, you don't start off with an idea. You start off with a mess, a cloud. The best description I could find for it was probably a cloud, a fog of mix of things. Ideas, some sparks of ideas, not fully formed ideas. You start off also with some questions, problems. You start off with some knowledge that you have in people's heads. You start off with technologies, cool stuff you've seen on LinkedIn, in TechTALK, and which kind of makes things plausible in your head. Oh, we should really try to do that. We should really talk to the guys who do all those robots and see how we can use those. So all of those things start to bubble, and they're not formed in a very structured way. And I'm not sure if you can see this slide, but we need technology to help us capture this. We need technology to help us relate these things, these concepts, these constructs. We need to structure them, because otherwise they will not be any use to us. We need to categorize them, combine them, search through them, assess them, discuss them, feedback, rank them, so that then we can form ideas. And we need technology to help us do that better. The danger is, if we don't do this well, you could actually end up spending a lot of time and energy, create a lot of excitement and engagement within your companies and people in that space, and it goes nowhere. The mess just gets bigger, the cloud gets bigger and bigger, it involves, probably gets a lot more sophisticated, has a lot of technologies and thinking in there. You might do, what do you call them, hackathons and stuff like that, and engage with universities, and just stay in that space for a long time, and not really venture into ideas that you take on and do something with. And this is where a lot of the research shows that 80–90% of projects, ideas, stop at the pilot state. They experiment in this space, but because it's such a fuzzy space, it stays there. It doesn't proceed to any real eventual change inside companies. The challenge also is that you don't end up with one idea, you end up with lots of ideas. And your team probably has some of their own ideas that they've been working through. So you need, once again, technology to help you sort through these ideas. You need to do more than just sorting. You probably need to help help defining them, refining them, getting them ready for a project team to start taking actions, taking those ideas which are at their essence possibilities, and making them into something that is actionable and delivers value. And once again, we need technology to help in this space. Capture, define, refine, relate, categorize, evaluate, estimate, help businesses put a dollar value with confidence against these ideas. You know, we had $2 trillion of potential there. We need better technologies of estimating the value of these projects. Once you have the idea, you put a team together, you go through lots of iterative processes. If you follow latest innovation processes and thinking, you do this iteratively. You learn from in cycles, you apply things, you learn from that. You don't just try to answer the technical questions, you also try to answer the customer questions, and you do all of that in a project team while trying to capture this information and be able to make sense of it so that you can make decisions and move the project forward. Eventually, you're going to end up with some sort of value proposition, some sort of product or a service, something that you have actually developed that you can sell and market. And during the whole process, you're generating knowledge, right? You're generating knowledge about the product, you're generating knowledge about technology, you're generating knowledge about customers. And all of these, once again, need to be captured. They need to be captured and preserved and fed back to that messy cloud at the beginning so you can restart the process again. Once again, we need technology to help us there. Finally, the ideas need a business model, need to be linked back to the overall supply chain, value chain of the business, pushed out to customers. Then you start learning again. If you're doing any of this smart stuff with your products, you start getting data from your customers about the use of their product. That, once again, needs to be captured and fed back. You need to assess the performance of these ventures you have created, these new products you have launched, so you can actually feed that information about and enhance your ability to estimate future value of those products or services or technologies you have implemented. And once again, all of these can be done better with technology. Now, to add probably 10 times or 100 times more complexity to this process that seems quite complex is the fact that this process exists in an existing company. An existing company that is not there to do this, but is there to do all the other things they do. A business as usual. They're there to make products and services, satisfy customers, produce goods, distribute stuff, develop code, all of those things that they do on a normal day-to-day basis. The resources, the creativity, the ideas, and even the money for all of that bottom layer has to come from the top layer. And I don't know many businesses who have a lot of Slack resources. Maybe Amazon and Google do, but in New Zealand, majority of our businesses are running quite lean. They're operating in global markets, very competitive, obviously with challenges of the current situation with the world. They're probably even leaner than what they have been in before. So somehow, the managers of those companies, the executives, have to find money, resource, time, capacity, technology to make the bottom part of this going, to engage with the robot companies, to come and work with universities, to do all of those things while the top part survives, not just survives, but probably prospers because they have shareholders to report to. And that makes it even more challenging. Because the best people who can work on the projects at the bottom are the busiest people who are working in the business at the top. Once again, not limited by the imagination, by the value, by realization of the technology, but actually limited by capacity to even think about some of the stuff at the bottom. even so, for that top layer as well, that business as usual, there needs to be some governance of the bottom layer. And that governance typically looks at making sure they're doing the right mix of projects, making sure that they're managing and retiring risk, making sure that they have the right type of processes, established routines and processes for managing the bottom processes, making sure they're managing capacity, because capacity is, at the end of the day, going to make or break their normal business or the innovation project at the bottom. So a lot of times, if you innovate, then perish, you are not managing any of those things in the right top corner. And so technology can help by consolidate, produce reports, and put the right information in the hands of the decision makers at the board or innovation steering groups, so they can make the right decisions around investments in all of those activities at the bottom. So back to the starting question, how might we use data and technology to innovate the right way? I would love to give you the answer. I don't have the answer. I will make an attempt to give you an answer in the MADE conference. I said I'm going to make a shout out to the MADE conference. There's a little leaflet in front of you. I will present a data model in that conference that tries to make sense out of all this stuff. But in the meantime, at IMS, we've been experimenting. We've been trying different tools, and mainly around Microsoft's set of tools. We've been making dashboards for board meetings. We've been doing technology road mapping. We've been making Excel tools that help project managers track knowledge as well as manage the level of risk that's in the business. We've also been experimenting with the Microsoft Power Apps, making apps that help this whole process better. We haven't cracked it, but we think we're thinking along the right stuff. And once again, an invitation to you all. If you want to collaborate and experiment with us, please contact me, Adrian, or Nick, and send us an email at hello@IMS Projects. Thank you very much.